No, well, I'll say it when it before, you know, no, seriously though, he's like a brother. Not Cain and Abel. No. Dialect.
Yes, good afternoon everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me there, yes? Now, on Sunday 13th of August, Songs of Praise at Four Lanes Methodist Church here at 2:30. Get everybody to come here. It's going to be a fantastic afternoon. That's on Sunday the 13th of August, even better, and not the 14th. The 6th of September, 12 noon, Harvest Soup and Sweet. Music by Clifford. Bring something for Four Lanes Food Bank. And the 20th of September, 10:45, a mystery coach trip. I don't know where it's going. We leave the Methodist Church at 10:45. That's in the morning, mind, not in the evening. All right.
No one knows when the coach trip is going.
Now, I'm not filming anybody there. I'm filming myself. And I'm lucky tonight. I've done my hair and all. No, what it is, you know, we're getting older, and I'm trying to put all this sort of things, it's there for everybody. So I got my own website now. If anybody's got a computer, if you put in, I'll have the cards printed next week, cornishtrevor.org. By the end of the weekend, you'll see this on that site. So I'm trying to save all my history and everything else. I've got 1,000 photos on there at the moment, mainly the Hale area, but even so, just history and, well, loads of things. So, right, we're going to do Cornish dialect this afternoon. Okay. Now this one's proud to be Cornish. After having dug to a depth of 10 feet last year, Australian scientists found traces of copper wire dating back 200 years and came to the conclusion that their ancestors already had a telephone network more than 150 years ago. Not to be outdone by the Aussies, in the weeks that followed, an American archaeologist dug to a depth of 20 feet, and shortly after, a story was published in the New York Times. American archaeologists finding traces of 250-year-old copper wire have concluded that their ancestors already had an advanced high-tech communications network 50 years before the Australians. 1 week later, the council in Cornwall reported the following. After digging as deep as 30 feet in St. Just, Denzel Pemberthy, a self-taught archaeologist, reported that he found absolutely bugger all. So Denzel has concluded that 250 years ago, Cornwall had already gone wireless. Now this one's all right. When one cousin Jack meets another cousin Jack, going someplace or coming back. Early in the day or late at night, the greeting's a question and the question's all right. And you know, the expected response is just the same. Or they might say, my handsome, or use a name. But all right's the answer. It has always been so. Down here in Cornwall, where'er you go. All right, fill the air. Or you could be suicidal, full of black despair, unable to see a glimmer of light. But being Cornish, hell, you're right. For instance, see a cousin Jack who's had a few. Bless his heart. It's all he can do is get back home and back home late, to be met by his missus with a look of hate. But he doesn't get flummoxed or filled with fright. No, before he falls down, he mutters, all right. Why, listen, I once awoke in intensive care, and scared I gazed at the others there, when a face I knew came into sight, and right away we were both, all right. Oh, I'm willing to bet now this ain't no jest, when a cousin Jack is laid to rest, before he's lowered out of sight, if you tapped on his box, you'd hear, all right. So to me, it just goes to show whate'er the plight this world is in, whatever might. Happen in the future, ours is bright, 'cause we're Cornish, my handsomes, and we're all right. No, I had a little sat-nav. I have a little sat-nav. It sits there in my car. A sat-nav is a driver's friend. It tells you where you are. But I have a little sat-nav. I've had it all my life. It's better than the normal ones. My sat-nav is my wife. It gives me full instructions, especially how to drive. It's 30 miles an hour, it says. You're doing 35. It tells me when to stop and start and when to use the brake, and tells me that it's never ever safe to overtake. It tells me when a light is red and tells me when it goes to green. It seems to know instinctively just when to intervene. It lists the vehicles just in front and all those to the rear, and taking this into account, it specifies my gear. I'm sure no other driver has so helpful a device, for when we leave and lock the car, it still gives its advice. It fills me up with counselling. Each journey's pretty fraught, so why don't I exchange it and get a quieter sort? Well, you see, it cleans the house, makes sure I'm properly fed. It washes all my shirts and things, and keeps me warm in bed. Despite all these advantages and my tendency to scoff, I only wish that now and then I could turn the gadget off. Now this one's about an expectant father. An expectant father rang Trellis maternity unit to see how his wife, who had gone into labour, was getting on. By mistake, he was connected to the county cricket ground. How's it going, he asked. Oh, fine, came the answer. We got 3 out, and hope to have the rest out before lunch. The last one was a duck. A farmer near St. Just saw a stranger drinking from his stream. He shouts, "What's on? What's on? You don't want to be drinking that. It's full of horse pee and cow doings." "Oh, hi there," says the stranger. "I'm your new neighbour from London. I've just bought this cute little cottage in the village. I'm not used to the way you chaps speak, so could you say that again, please? A bit slower." So the farmer replies, "If you use your 2 hands, you won't spill any." Now this one's called Relations. Father was at the table checking his football pools, all the homes and the ways and following the rules. Young Herbie came in through the door, all smiling and excited. "Hello," says Dad, "what's up with you? You're looking some delighted." "Oh, congratulate me, Dad," says Herb, "for I have found a love." "Well, that is handsome news," says Dad. "Who is he thinking of?" His son pulled his ear and blushed, his voice all soft and gooey. "I've asked for Fanny Jenkins, she'd live over Truey." His father's face was stony. "My answer must be no. You see, my son, it cannot be. I cannot allow it so." "Why ever not?" young Herbie replied. "She's a handsome maid," he said. "Oh, tell me, Dad, what's wrong with her?" But father shook his head. "It's difficult to tell you, boy, and me your father like, but it was when I was young, and I had this here bike. I used to go out now and then and take a little ride, and once or twice I found myself over Truey's side. And that is why I must explain my visits over Truey. She's sort of your relation, see? Quite like a sister to him." The boy accepted sadly this awkward fact of life, and soon he met another maid he felt would make his wife. He told his father proudly he fancied Liz Trethewey, and found she must be cast aside, another sister to him. The months went by and Herbie strayed, only to face more ruin, where Sissy Frances Overbreed was like a sister to him. Well, in despair, young Herbie sat, his head upon the table. He tried to joke a bit with Ma, but felt he wasn't able. "What's matter, boy?" his mother said. "You sickening, I don't wonder. Your teeth are like an adder, boy, and your face is black as thunder. Oh, I can't stand it, Ma, he cried. My heart is gone on strike, and it's all because of Heather, he and his bloomin' bike. For every maid I looked upon, be it Mousel or Trelister, my father seen there on his bike, and she's bloomin' near my sister. But Ma was stiff with laughing, she hooted like a good un. So, that's what 'tis upset you. Don't you worry, my old puddin', for you can wed the maid over Brieg and the one over Truey. And don't you worry over that, he's no relation to you. They're all right for them now, aren't they? You all right? Yeah? You understand them, yeah?
Yeah.
I'll do this one in a minute. This one's called the cabbage. Mrs. Stone prepared the meal. Oh, I haven't got no beans. And dinner isn't nothing if you haven't got no greens. She called to William Henry. Go down the garden, Willie. I need a cabbage, dear, she said. Ain't got enough to filly. With knife in hand, Bill Henry sped out through the kitchen door, and from that moment Mrs. Stone seen her man alive no more. 5 minutes passed, she fussed about, well, where's I gone to now? He just had to cut a cabbage, don't take this long, I vow. 5 minutes more and she was off, and there, look what she found. Her man beside the cabbages lay dead upon the ground. Up chapel at the funeral, they tended to her needs. A neighbour paused to speak to her, there in her widow's weeds. Poor Mrs. Stone, what did he do in such awful times as these? Well, what could I do? She wiped her eyes. I opened a tin of peas. I got to do this one minute if I can find it there somewhere. Warren Street, washing machine, no, that ain't it. A bit mixed up here, sorry about this, but here we go. This one's called the Starch Amazon. Oh, heck, man, I can hardly tell you now for grizzling. 'Twas 4:08 this morning, see, and I heard this noise below, like, well, I thought I wasn't expecting my ma or one of my grandchildren. No, I wasn't expecting nobody else. And then I heard the strangest sound, like a linnet 'twas, all shrill and high. Mr. Tunkin, are you awake, dear? It's Nurse Tiddy. I'm here for Nurse Barnacle. She's at a fall, poor soul. Will I come straight up? And then I hear these get feet stanking up the stairs, heavy like a infantryman. Thought she'd be going through the planching any time. Oh, when the door opened, 'twas like a vision, a starched Amazon. And then, without no invitation, she starts bustling. I'll just straighten your covers and draw the curtains, Mr. Duncan. Fresh air to air the circulation. Am I right, Mr. Duncan? And she turns and looks over her glasses at me. Oh, I must have looked like a cornered ferret, hair like a furze bush. Oh, it makes me ache now to think of them. And then she reaches into this bag, takes out some books and starts reading. Tunkin, Arthur John Samuel, bed bath twice weekly. You don't mind if I call you Arthur, do you, Mr. Tunkin? Well, I was struck dumb, as you can imagine, and I think she took that as a no, because she carries on with Mr. Tunkin this and Mr. Tunkin that, and where does it hurt, Mr. Tunkin? And tell me if you aren't comfortable, Mr. Tunkin. Then as quick as you like, she's on me pulling back the bedclothes and dragging off my nightshirt. Well, I can't pretend I didn't need a bath. You know me. Never was one for all of that, and for a second I felt a touch of embarrassment. But then she started soaping up and I forgot all about him. Now, she wasn't no ever gardener or nothing, but hell, I started to get particular at my time in life, so I just lay back and took him. Imagine it, man. 1 minute you're sleeping like a babby, and the next an angel in an apron is smothering her hands all over him. I ain't religious, as you well know, so I know I wasn't in heaven. And I thank God for that, else I'd have missed. Well, she was prodding and pummeling and stroking me from my toes to my nose, and all the while paying me little compliments, all concerned like about my welfare. Arthritis is a terrible cross to bear, Mr. Tunkin, and you must miss Miss Tunkin terribly. Then with the final sluice down and a flannel behind the ears, she was gone as quick as she came. Well, I lay there a minute contemplating my good fortune and wondering what other delights the day had to offer, when it all of a sudden struck me that during all that time, all that care and coddling, sloshing and washing, I had not heard a single word to the dear woman. Well, I can tell you, I was up out of that bed quicker than you could say knife, and over to the window. Nurse, nurse, wait! Here, nurse, I'm calling after her, trying to keep up from cracking up. I just wanted to say thank you. She did look a bit taken back. Oh, that's quite all right, Mr. Tunkin. All part of the service, you know, says she. Then she's off again. Oh, there's just one thing I'm calling after. Yes, says she. Well, what is it, Mr. Tunkin? Well, you see, I aren't Mr. Tunkin. He's a miserable old bugger who lives next door. Oh, going to church. Mother and father were sitting down to the kitchen table. They were waiting for boy Richard Henry to come down from bed. I don't believe that boy is well. I heard him moving about in the night. Besides, he'd been called twice. Ten like he told, said father. You know what happened yesterday when I took him up chapel, says mother. We only got to the first hymn when he said he was feeling sick. So I told him to run out long, and if he's feeling better, come in again. And if he's worse, go on home. Well, we didn't finish the hymn before he was inside me again. Hell, I said, you made ass. Yes, said he. I found a box in the chapel porch marked for the sick. I aren't feeling too good myself. Sorry about that. I aren't feeling too good myself, said mother. I walked too far, I did. Last night I went up Trancrom and wasn't I thirsty. I stopped and asked a woman what to keep a little small holding for a cup of drink. Oh, will you have a drop of milk, she asked. Yes, said I, thank you very much. So she brought out some milk in a small bowl. I thought 'twas some funny to drink from a small bowl, but I was chattering. After a while, a little pig come up and started rubbing up against my legs. Dear little thing he was. I said, do you think that little pig to know me? Because I've been up here heaps of times. Don't know about that, replied the woman, but he do know that's his bowl. Put that one there. Oh, 'tis raining cats and dogs, said Richard Henry, who had just come in from school. Can't go out night. Tell us a yarn, feller. Know any good ones, do he? Oh, father said, did I ever tell you about Willie Westcoat? 'Tis true, and if it didn't, it ought to be. How do we call him that, feather? Asked Richard. Because he said he'd wear his waistcoat in bed to keep his feet warm. Well, Willie, he used one of they there cutthroat razors and was shaving. When the cat jumped up on the table and scattered over the jug of milk, this frightened him, and turning round quickly, still holding the razor in his hand, cut off the tip of his nose. When he see what he'd done, he left the razor fall out of his hand, and having no boots on, it fell on his foot and cut off a piece of his big toe. By this time he was hollering for help. I killed myself, I know I have. And in the incitement, he struck the piece of his toe on his nose, and the tip of his nose on his toe. Now, strange to say, they both stuck. Well, my two, yeah, they both stuck. And look at it now, you wouldn't know if it ever happened. But there was only one snag. Well, what's that? Asked Richard Henry. Well, every time he didn't want to wipe his nose, he got to take his boot off. Now, this is drastic measures. Oh, sorry boy, I'm sick, said Jan. My bloomin' head is thumping. I suppose a man as old as me shouldn't go in for bungee jumping. But it started out by accident. In Newlyn, of all places. Coming home from pub, I missed the bridge and hung there on my braces. Well, as I dangled up and down, I was feeling quite elated 'Tis like as though your aches and pains are all elastic-headed. So the next weekend I tried again with a crane from Harry Deebles, but I bounced around too high and went around the jib like wool round knitting needles. Of course the boys all laughed till they were sore, so I said I bet a tenner, with a bit of practice through the week, I can do the cliffs up zenner. Now as you know with all these things, 'tis down to preparation. So I took command of the setting up with the utmost calculation. And on the day the crowd was hushed, and whoosh and I was dropping, on down and all was well, until it came to stopping. I tell you boy, I hit the sand like a human armadillo, and tunnelled 30 feet or more till bedrock formed a pillow. It was while me bones was being set, and my arms and legs in plaster, that I had the time to ruminate on the cause of my disaster. And then one day I worked it out. It was Europe's interference. Their weights and measures men it was who dented my appearance, because I never have quite come to terms with all these kilograms and litres. See, I measured up the cliff in yards, but they sold the rope in meters. Now, this one's called Shiny Bulls. Christmas was coming, so Mother baked the cake. Mixing the ingredients up, it took bloomin' hours to make. The fruit had plumbed up handsome, no dipping in the middle. Now was the time to decorate, which Mother thought a fiddle. She rolled the marzipan around and icing all on top. Did he get the shiny balls, says Dad. No, sold out at the shop. But I got a Father Christmas and a little snowman too. I'll wrap a pretty ribbon round and that will have to do. But Father was insistent. We got Ollie on the walls and we can't have a Christmas cake without the shiny balls. And we all got all the family coming for the whole of Christmas Day. No shiny balls upon the cake? We must get some today. Ma wiped her eyes in her pinny. The tears were streaming down. Oh, you do something, Father. Take the car and try in town. So Father went up Bill's garage. He had to fill the tank. Says Bill, oh, you're looking muggy. Have someone robbed your bank? Oh, no, it's the wife, says Father. She's home there in some tear. No shiny balls upon the cake. Can't get none anywhere. I tell you what, says Bill, from the desk where he was sat, I got these small ball bearings. Can he substitute with that? Oh, it's worth a try, says Feather. And he took them in his hand. Ma washed and placed them on the cake. My God, that's looking grand. The children, they were watching at all that occurred. Now, kids, this is our secret. Don't say a bloomin' word. On Christmas Day, the family came. They all arrived by noon. Mother had prepared a goose. It'd all be eaten soon. And later, all were snoring while Mother laid out tea. Mince pies, the saffron cake, and splits, the cake, for all to see. They listened on the radio, the speech made by the Queen. She'd done a proper job, they said. It was a happy scene. No mishap came at tea time. The trifle disappeared, and several slices of the cake, the moment Father feared. They sat there in their paper hats, the firelight on the walls, and Father thinking of the fuss about the shiny balls. For he was grinning quietly while many yarns were swapped, how they survived disaster, for they were nearly caught. A man was chatting quite relaxed and sitting quite unwary, till Grandma bent to poke the fire and shot the poor canary. I'll do that one in a minute. Well, this one's called Snow and Ice. Well, we survived the siege, yes, the snow, I mean. We thought we hadn't bad down here in Newland, but it was nothing to what they poor souls up country had, and I mean they that live up Cameron and beyond. We had snow, sure enough, but what kept we isolated was a freezing cold wind, easterly it was, that froze up all the pavements. The roads were clear enough, buses running throughout. But what was the use of that if you were risking life and limb to get to the bus stops? Still, Alfred and me took what they call a window opportunity and managed to get across the road and stock up with enough meat and vegetables and that sort of thing so that we could sit it out. Damn cold it was though, wasn't it? I done a bit of washing one day, hung it out under the linny to dry, and it froze like soldiers right away. Alfred went out to get a couple of logs for the fire and got his scat round the ear hole with the leg of one of his long underpants. Boy Michael come in with a bag of logs for us because he was afraid we were going to suffer with this here hypothermia. Oh, get on with it, I said to him. We'll real snug. Especially at night, we'd go to bed with a duvet on us, 3 blankets and 2 hot water bottles. I made plenty of licky broth and stew as well. Mind, it was one day when there had been enough sun to melt some of the ice, so we took another opportunity to go for a bit of walk. Well, I was beginning to feel like a kipper, with Alfred sitting there by the fire all day long smoking his dirty git pipe. I decided that we needed fresh air in our lungs, so we went overlong towards the prom. We thought it'd be a bit more sheltered from the easterly wind if we went along the lanes. We were doing very well until we come to a get patch of ice, and we were debating whether to turn round or no. And I heard this little family coming along. I heard the mother say to the children, "We must help these poor old souls like they 2 old people in front of us." So when they came up to us and asked if they could see us over the ice, I felt as old as Methuselah. We were glad a bit of help, and we thanked them very much. But when they was out of earsight, I garmed, "Poor old souls, I ain't going to be called that no more. We're going to make a revolution to get ourselves fit." "Don't you mean resolution, Sarah Ann?" said Alfred. "No," I said, "because it would take a revolution to get you off your backside to exercise. No more sleeping by the fireside with the Western Morning News in the afternoons for you, my son. We're going to take a walk every day." Well, we grumbled. "I wonder you don't suggest that we go to the gym place over the harbour." "Don't be daft, Alfred," I said. "You got too big a belly and I got a big behind to get into any of their tight-fitting legging things what they to wear. Both of us to sag too much to go exposing ourselves. No, we'll take a walk, as I decided. You cut down on your backy and I'll cut down on the nicey. We might be elderly, but we're going to be fit." Alfred didn't look very happy, and I heard him muttering something like dictator. Like I said, we survived the snow, but we can't go no for no walk day because it's hunting down with rain and blowing a hoolie. So Alfred is sleeping under the Western Morning News. Seems like we're all back to normal again now. We call this one Cold Comfort. Make you feel cold, talk about it, really. "Oh, it's getting colder," Jan remarked. "I can feel it in my bones. My feet are always first to tow. They're like the Piper Stones. Poor Ada gets the worst of it because when we goes to bed, she'd a mutter about the concrete blocks I push against her leg. I tried all sorts down through the years from things that I've been told. You get these here fancy thermals, but they're dearer, boy, than gold. And Willie Jones said, 'Do like me when the chill of winter bites. The best thing of the lot, my son, is a pair of woman's tights.' So I went and asked my Ada. Of course, she had to make me squirm. 'Well, Jan Travaska,' she replied, 'I believe you're on the turn. You better take your fancy from the Heron Cupboard shop, but if you want them black and sexy, you can buy them for yourself.' Next morning, pulling turnips, and the wind was like a knife, but my legs and feet were cosy, thanks to my beloved wife. 'You're chirpy, Jan,' said Henry. 'How's your darling Ada May?' 'Oh, she's fine,' I said, and feeling extra close to me today. Perhaps Henry's horse was listening. He decided to be cute, and bolted with the turnip cart and me in hot pursuit. Well, as he done a racing turn, I heard the tailgate crack, and 50,000 turnips come flying out the back. Oh, my foot, oh, my leg, I was in some sorry state. The boys run round and ate me up, but I couldn't take my weight. Each time I tried to stand up straight, the pain was getting worse. So we hobbled off down along the road to see the district nurse. The next thing I remember, I was on this big settee. Nurse Florence Penalula was there fiddling with my knee. "I better take a look," she said, while grinning through her teeth. And I suddenly recalled what I was wearing underneath. As I lashed around and struggled, she said, "Oh, come on, don't be shy." And she whipped away my trousers in the blinking of an eye. Then silence while I waited for a giggle or a scream, but Florence Penalula wasn't nowhere to be seen. Then her voice off in the corner said, "I'm writing up my notes in case of complications and the need for antidotes. Though I feel this diagnosis should be written up in lights. Minor bruising round your ankles and a ladder in your tights." Now, Sammy had a donkey. Oh, he wasn't very bright. If he tried to turn in leftwards, he would always veer off to the right. Sometimes he would gallop, and sometimes he would crawl, and he'd sometimes dig his heels in, and he wouldn't go at all. His eyes was different colours, and he only had one ear. He was knock-kneed in his front legs, and bandy in the rear. His teeth was broke and busted from chewing on a slet, and his tail was short and stumpy, where he pinching in the gate. One day I says to Sammy, "How is it, my old dear, that you bought that bloomin' donkey and you kept him all these years?" "I tell you how it is," he said, and pointed to his wife. "We'd a reckoned that there animal have saved our married life, 'cause I'm nothing much to look at when all is said and done. Me face was slapped together when the Lord was having fun. And my beloved missus, she wouldn't never tell a lie, so I wouldn't pay her compliments for fear of her reply. But since I got that donkey, 'tis like Christmas every day. I'd a tell her how she's pretty, and she'd a look at me and say, 'Dear Sam, I'll give 'ee kisses, and I'll sit upon your lap, 'cause compared to that there donkey, you're a handsome looking chap.'" Tallywarren Street. Now, times have changed, said Father, but not the people. I can remember when 'twas some handsome to go up Camborne Saturday night. Sure enough, see someone you know, and the shops was open till 11 o'clock. I was up there one night when everybody was rushing up top of Tallywarren Street. I soon found out what 'twas the matter, said Father. A donkey had tumbled down dead. Now everybody had seen scores of living donkeys, but they had never seen a dead donkey before. Anyhow, what made matters worse, the donkey was lying across the tram lines on a tram going up Druth, was held up. It was the driver ringing the bell that brought the policeman, who was down in the market having a bit of chat. "What's on here?" said the policeman. He wanted to know as he took out his notebook. "And how did that happen?" He asked the owner of the donkey. "I don't know," was the reply. "I've seen do lots of funny things, but I never none do this before." "Well," said the policeman, "unhitch him and get a long piece of rope." This they did and tied him to the poor donkey. "Now all catch hold of the rope and pull. Are you ready?" There was some long line of men. They would have made a handsome funeral procession. And then they pulled the poor donkey down the street. "Turn into Gas Street," shouted the policeman. Upon that, a large gentleman asked the question, "What's the idea of making us pull all the way down here?" "Just like this here," replied the policeman. "I got to put down in my report where the poor donkey was found, and I can't spell Tallywarren Street." Done that one. Oh, a man from Build, he decided he'd become a monk. So he went to the monastery and talked to the head monk. The head monk said, "You must take a vow of silence, and you can only say 2 words every 3 years." The man agreed, and after the first 3 years, the head monk came to him and said, "What are your 2 words?" "Food, cold," the man replied. 3 more years went by, and the head monk came to him again and said, "And what are your 2 words?" "Robe, dirty," the man replied. 3 more years went by, and the head monk came to her and said, "And what are your 2 words?" "I quit," said the man. "Well," said the head monk, "I'm not surprised. You've done nothing but complain ever since you got here." Now we're back in Cameron again now. We've got 3 sisters. One is 92, one is 94, and one is 96. Living in a house together in Cameron. One night the 96-year-old draws a bath. She puts in her foot and pauses. She yells out to the other sisters, "Were I getting in or I getting out of the bath, my lover?" The 94-year-old hollers back and says, "I don't know. I'll come up and see." She starts up the stairs, but then she pauses. "Were I going upstairs or down, my lover?" The 92-year-old is sitting at the kitchen table having tea, listening to her sisters. She shakes her head and says, "I hope I never get that forgetful." As she raps on the oak table loudly, then she shouts upstairs, "I'll come up and help the pair of you as soon as I see who's at the door." Now we're down ale now. Got a bit